Welcome to Happy Mama TV. I'm your host, Patricia Rivera-Wolfson, and today I am so excited. We have an awesome special guest, Bea Marshall from Yes Parenting. Welcome, Bea.
Thank you very much, Patricia. It's great to be here.
Thank you. I'm really so excited about this because I've been following you, and I really love your approach to parenting and how it's very positive and encouraging and really works on that relationship with you and your children and building that bond. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what Yes Parenting is?
Yeah, sure. So Yes Parenting is it's a pretty radical approach to parenting in many ways, because what it does is it says no to so much of conventional parenting. So where conventional parenting often thinks that we need to use punishments or consequences or rewards and things like that, Yes Parenting doesn't use any of that. Yes Parenting starts first it starts with ourselves. If we're not saying yes to ourselves, we can't say yes to anyone else. But when it comes to our children, Yes Parenting recognizes that absolutely every behavior has a positive intention. So we're always trying to understand, what is the positive intention behind this unwanted behavior? And you'll notice through the interview that I never talk about naughty kids or bad behavior or anything like that. I just talk about unwanted behavior. So Yes Parenting starts by looking at what is the unmet need. So how do we say yes to the needs? Then what are the interests and preferences that my child has, and how do I say yes to those? And then how do I say yes to my child's desires where possible? And I have two sons, aged 10 and 12, and I can't really even remember the last time I said no. I mean, no just doesn't happen. So I have found all sorts of different ways that we can find a yes, even if actually it's a no. And we can maybe talk about that during the interview. I can expand on that. But yes is a really magical word. It's expansive. It opens us up to all sorts of wonderful things. And parenting our kids this way is awesome.
Yeah, I'm really curious, and it's something that after becoming a parent, before becoming a parent, I absorbed self-help books, which I still do. It's like my entire Audible library, because of course I don't have time to read, is full of, inspirational, motivational books, and of course parenting books. It's like, it's all I like to do. And I love that concept and that idea of yes parenting and saying yes as much as possible, and I really try to do that as much as I can. But there's definitely some moments that are challenging to maintain that connection, or even to remind ourselves I need to say yes somehow to this. So can you talk a little bit about those challenging moments for us?
Yeah, of course I can. So one of the things that I just want to clarify at the very beginning is, when we're talking about saying yes, it's not about saying yes to whatever your child wants to do and things like that, so that your children are running around like feral creatures. That whole permissive approach to parenting is something else altogether. So when we have these challenging times, normally what has happened is a pattern of behavior has come about, and that pattern is made up by everyone involved. So we have as much of a part to play in that as our child does. But this pattern of behavior has often been learnt over time, so that it just becomes the way that we kind of have this dance with each other. And we get stuck in it and we can't see it for what it is. But actually, if we're able to step out from that, and we're able to step out to the point where something first niggles us, that's where we can start to find the yes. And one of the things that I have learned over the years, and especially within my coaching practice, is that more often than not, in the most challenging times, the thing that everybody needs is connection. And when I say everybody, I'm including us as the mamas within that. So when we're faced with unwanted behavior, when things are getting challenging, when we're bringing our own unwanted behavior, because, we're not always this kind of like, we're certainly not perfect.
No.
Our kids are in this unwanted behavior. We're bringing our own unwanted behavior. And because we're the adults, because we're the parent, we often feel this like a requirement or a pressure or an expectation, or perhaps we just think this is what we should be doing. is that somehow we need to manage and control our child's behavior to help them grow up to be a decent adult. And I think that's where Yes Parenting comes in and says, whoa, actually, your child is biologically hardwired to want to grow up to be an awesome adult. You know, that's what we're doing from the minute, you know, from the minute after conception, when those cells start dividing of their own accord. We're on this increasing path of increasing independence. And so our children, they want to be awesome adults. And we forget that. We kind of think that we have this really important role to teach them how to do it. And that begins to override our ability to connect with our kids in compassion, in kindness, in understanding, and in acceptance. And those challenging times can be turned around if we can reconnect with those things. So compassion, understanding, kindness, and acceptance. And I was just sharing with a client this morning, because obviously I'm a few hours ahead of you, and I was just sharing with this client this morning about what I do with my 10-year-old son, because he is so like me. He's a real gift, because he triggers me. And when your children trigger you, conventional parenting would say, my child is pressing my buttons, as if they're doing it on purpose. They're not doing it on purpose. They just happen to connect with something in you that it's an invitation to heal, basically. So my 10-year-old son, he has this wonderful ability to trigger me. And I will find myself going into this kind of space of like kind of old patterns of needing to somehow teach him the right attitude, or teach him how to behave, or, you know, manage him somehow. And I will even just, I'll catch myself, and then I'll be, whoa, Joss, I just want to rewind 1 sec. And I go, and then I just start again from the beginning with this kindness, compassion, acceptance, and understanding. And he's so responsive to it, you know, because what it does is it brings the connection back. And that connection just can help resolve anything, no matter how awful it is.
That's so important. I totally agree with your outlook on, you know, the child who triggers you is connecting with that part of you that needs to heal. Yes. I definitely have those parts in me that need to heal, that come out during challenging moments with my children. I have definitely one child who triggers me the most. I have 3 boys. I'm just behind you. Mine are 4, 6, and 8. So, okay, so let's have an example, so that, you know, so that we have like a direct strategy. So, for example, one of the things that right now seems to be a go-to in my house is throwing things. Like, I'm mad, I'm going to throw things, I'm going to destroy things. And you know, clearly that becomes an issue, especially when it's throwing at a brother or at a parent, and you're like, stop throwing things. You know, so in that moment, what do you recommend to? Yes, go ahead.
I would start, actually, now that you know that those moments are likely to happen, I would start by going, okay, let me just rewind a bit and let me put some things in place for the next time that moment happens. So if throwing is something that people are doing to kind of release frustration or to express disappointment or anger or whatever, I would start to get some, I mean, ultimately it's not ideal to be throwing things in the house, we all know that, but if we can come in and actually just change a pattern, then actually from that point we can make a lot of differences. So I would start to have some things around that are okay to throw, like some balls or whatever. So if that throwing is about to start, you could grab a ball and you say, hey, you want to throw things? Let's play catch. Because what will happen is your child will instantly go, what? Like, no, that's not how this happens. I throw this, you get mad. I throw it again, you get mad, and I slam the door. But suddenly you've changed the whole course of events, because, you know, I mentioned earlier it's a bit like a dance. You've just changed the dance steps. So they can either try and pull you back into the way you always danced before, or they have to change with you. And so that's a really great way that you can, you know, you can just change things up. But the other thing that you can do is just give yourself permission to take time to notice, like, what is triggering these moments of wanting to throw things. If the throwing things is a destruction thing, so if they're actually wanting to destroy something, I'd say, I can tell you're really angry. Seems to me that you're wanting to destroy stuff. Is that right? You know, you kind of like just say what you see. Because if they do want to destroy something and they say, yeah, I'm really cross, I just want to break everything, you could say, right, okay, let's think. In the garden, we've got some broken pots. Do you want to smash them up? Shall we find a big stick and go and beat up a tree? What I did for my eldest son's very sensitive and responsible and lovely and all sorts of deliciousness, but he loves to destroy stuff. So he has an axe, he has wood, he's free to get his axe and smash up wood outside the back door if he wants to. And he will say to me, Mum, I'm angry, I want to destroy something. So part of that is tuning in to what it is that our child is really wanting to do in that moment, to give them a full expression, you know, of whatever's happening for them. Apologies if my dog's barking is interfering. So that would be the second thing, would be to give yourself permission to step back and try and understand exactly what's going on for your child in that moment. And then the third thing that you could do, and this kind of depends on the age of your child, and their kind of relationship with you, is just to engage with compassion and love and kindness. So no matter what's going on and why they're about to throw whatever they're about to throw, I would just go up to them and say, I love you so much. I know this is hard right now. And just create that space of love. Because again, that's ultimately what they're wanting, you know, is they're wanting this kind of grace, I suppose. They're wanting this grace to be present in the challenges they're facing growing up at that point.
I really like that changing the game aspect and also having something they can do instead. I've actually said to my husband, and I really want to do this, that we should get a punching bag in the basement because 3 boys, lots of fighting, and they like doing that. And I'll let them get their aggressions out, not when they're bad, but just like the fun play fighting. But I've often said we need to get like a punching bag, so when someone feels the anger and they just want to hit something, they can just go straight to the punching bag and let it out. So I really, really like that aspect.
Yeah.
Yes.
On that, the other thing that you can also do is, you know how you can get I don't know if you call them this in America, but you call them tea towels. You know, the towels that you use to dry up your washing up.
Oh, yeah.
So you can get a tea towel and you can whip it. And my friend went through a very difficult time in her marriage, and the way that she handled her anger was she would get a tea towel and she would stand in the kitchen and she would whip the kitchen cabinets. But something like that is so, like for the parent or for the child, it's completely safe. Like you're not going to damage anything as long as you haven't got open cupboards, I guess, down below. But it just makes you feel really good. And because it's out in the open, you know, you're not, there's no shame about these huge emotions that different people are feeling. It's like, okay, you've got this really big emotion right now. We've got these different solutions to give you an opportunity to express it.
I like that. I'd like other solutions. Okay, so I'm trying to think of a different scenario. What's something that comes up a lot with your clients?
Bedtime.
I'm sure. Oh, bedtime. That's a great one. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, bedtime comes up again and again and again. Classically, it's like my child won't go to bed when it's bedtime. They won't settle down. They tell me they're hungry, but they've only just eaten. They want a drink. They've got a tummy ache. You know, all of these things. I would say, and this is completely a made up statistic, but I reckon it's pretty accurate. I would say about 95% of bedtime issues are due to a lack of connection. It's like your child's brain starts going, in about 25 minutes, my mum's not going to be here anymore, and I haven't had enough time or connection with her today, so I've got to make this last as long as possible. You know, not consciously, of course, this is all happening subconsciously, but I really think that's what's happening. And what we as parents tend to do is think that somehow we need to get our child to go to bed at the right time, which is always a time that pretty much we've decided is the right time, you know? So, if people are having bedtime issues, the best thing to do is look at throughout the whole day, where do I have opportunities to build connection with my child that I'm currently missing? So, for example, when people sit down for breakfast, you know, as the mum, are you busy getting all the packed lunches together, or are you sitting down with your children and, I don't know, chatting about, well, whatever, what they dreamt about last night, what's happening in the day, some new TV show, it doesn't matter what you're chatting about. Or, you know, does your child come to you and say, Mum, can I, whatever it is, and you often respond with, in a minute, or not right now. Those in a minute and not right now, they might seem important to you at the time, but I think you're paying for it when something like bedtime is actually taking half an hour, an hour and a half longer than you want it to. So looking for all the different ways that you can create connection during the day. I don't just believe this, I see this with my clients, is that what then happens is that bedtime has become so much smoother.
That's a really great point, because my bedtime is not too bad at my house, but you know, just like everyone else, we have our days. But I do notice that one of my children in particular, he then says, "Now, can I talk to you? I have something to tell you." Always at bedtime, like
right.
That's when he wants to open up and discuss. And during the day, sometimes it's even, you know, like he's got a million things going on where he's like running around, but then he needs that connection. Not so much even that I haven't tried to connect with him, but that now he's ready, he's calm.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, now I'm ready to talk to you. And I'm like, now's bedtime. But yes, I really like that suggestion.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of children will, I mean, my boys are exactly the same. You know, bedtime is the time when suddenly, you know, they've got all sorts of things to tell you. And it's a little bit like, you know, when we've had a really busy day and then we go to bed and then suddenly we remember, oh, I was meant to do this, I need to do this, I've got, you know. So it's because our brains are in that kind of like slowing down, shifting transition space. And that's when all of this stuff can come to the surface. And the minute that we resist that, that's the minute that, you know, the difficulties will start. It's much better to just be like, okay, my child needs to talk to me right now, you know, and just go with it. Because there are going to be, you know, there's going to be times in the future, anyone who's got teenagers will know that you get to a point, your child goes through phases where they really do not want to talk to you. So the more that you can just give your child space when they do want to talk to you and let them know that you prioritize that, will actually support your relationship with them through those challenging teenage years as well.
I keep reminding myself of that every time. I'm like, they're not going to want to talk to me. They're not going to want to hang out with me. They're not going to want to cuddle, you know, when I'm feeling that overwhelming feeling like or touched out, you know, as they say. Yeah. I'm just like, I just remember that this is not going to last long and I'm going to want to chat with them and they're not going to want anything to do with me. So I'm just going to enjoy this for the moment. Yeah. So do you have, I know you have a lot of sort of like, you know, 3 quick steps to connect or 3 steps to have them listen. Like, what is the piece of advice that you feel is the most valuable for someone who's just beginning this journey of yes parenting? So someone who's like, well, my kids need to listen, my kids need to be disciplined, my kids need consequences. But someone who might be like, well, I'd like to give this a try. So what's something that you can share with us here near the end of the interview that might be a good start for those of us who are just sort of dabbling in the yes parenting to see that they have results?
So I kind of feel like, gosh, there's so many replies to this and they would all be valid. And I think also the different options would work for different people. But there is one kind of foundational piece of yes parenting that, and it doesn't just work in parenting, actually, it works in all our relationships with anyone, which is to be the change you want to see in your children. So let's take some classic examples like my child should tidy up, my child should, eat healthily, my child should be good with their money, my child should go to bed on time, any of these things. Whatever it is that, like, you know, for the 1,000th time you've asked your child to pick up their toys and they still haven't done it or whatever, is take the focus off your child and look at yourself. So where am I not maintaining tidiness in all of my spaces? Where am I not putting my clothes away at the end of the day? Where am I not going to bed on time? Where am I not eating healthily? Because every single time we look at ourselves and we focus on being the change we want to see in our kids, we discover that there's a load of work we can do to take care of our side of the street. So, I mean, tidiness and order is really important to me, but I don't actually keep a brilliantly tidy house half the time. I have tidy areas, but it's very rare that everywhere's tidy. So if I get to that point of wanting my kids' space to be tidy, and tidiness is interesting anyway, because I kind of think if it's their space, actually it's their space kind of thing. But I notice that as soon as I start to be bothered by the mess that I perceive them to be creating, that's when I need to look at, well, where's my own mess? I'm going to go and deal with my own mess, and then I'll come back and see if this is still an issue. And what I experience time and time again, and this is why I think this is such a great all-rounder, is that once you've taken care of your side of that, the stuff that was bothering you before, actually, either it seems to disappear or it no longer bothers you. So be the change you wish to see in your children would be my one. If you were just going to take anything to try it out, that would be it.
That's fantastic. I completely agree with you, because as you're talking with each great mug, by the way, with each thing, I find myself when things are messy for me, or when I'm, in the kitchen and the kitchen's messy and I'm like in the midst of everything, and suddenly I glance over at the living room and the toys are everywhere, it increases that frustration and that aggravation. So seeing as I can't immediately clean my area, or I don't want to immediately clean my area, I turn my focus on them and be like, this place is a disaster, it's so messy, you need to clean up. So I completely when I really take myself out of the equation, or remove my ego from the equation, that is a brilliant piece of advice. It really is. And sometimes in some cases, my kids are like, well, help me clean up. And I'm like, well, I got this to clean up, so I really can't help you. But if we do sometimes like assist them and lean down and be like, okay, let's make this a family fun thing, it's much more productive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I now take responsibility for the tidiness in their room if it's bothering me. So if I've gotten to the point where every time I walk into their room, there's Lego all over the floor, there's a train track, there's clothes, I don't, and if that's really bothering me, I will first say to them, guys, would you be willing to tidy up? Because I'm finding the mess hard. And to be honest, more often than not, they'll say, yeah, that's fine. But sometimes they'll say, oh, well, I don't really want to right now, I'm doing this. And I'm like, that's okay. And then I just get on and do it. And I do it with a joyful heart, because I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for me. And I have one son who craves order. So all of his cars are in a very clear line along the top of the radiator. And he likes to put things in order, but he takes his clothes off at the bottom of the stairs. And it's like he likes to travel 5 stairs, takes another piece off, 5 stairs, takes another. So so he leaves these trails of mess, but order's really important to him. Interesting. My other son, my eldest one, order is not particularly important to him at all, and yet he keeps everything very tidy. So it's just really interesting seeing them as they are. And I recognize in myself, order is really important to me, but I'm not naturally very tidy. And then I think about their dad, and their dad and I are not together anymore, but their dad used to, he actually really helped me learn how to tidy. He said, start with the largest item in the room. Whatever it is, just start with the largest item, because once you've cleared the largest item, you've made a dent. And just aim for 80%. Well, that for me was a real issue. I don't want it 80% tidy. I want it 100% tidy. So I recognize that that's my issue. So when people say, well, why don't you get your boys to do more stuff? And I'm like, actually, my boys do loads to help me, but the additional stuff wouldn't work for me, because I actually know that I need it a certain way, and I own that, rather than trying to suggest that my kids should somehow live up to my ridiculous levels of it must be 100%.
That's so interesting. I do love how, when you turn the mirror, and I do believe in something that I talk about a lot, is that everyone is a mirror. When you turn that mirror and when you really notice that, your children are simply a mirror, an extension of you, and it's what, you see in them. As soon as you see in them, like, those aspects of you that you're like, oh no, this can't get out of hand, you're really, talking about yourself. And that's so unbelievably important to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that brings it back to that whole thing of, you be the change that you want to see in your
Yeah.
children. And it's really powerful. It's not always easy,
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
you just described. Like, you can be in a messy kitchen and think, well, either I can't tidy it now or I don't want to. But then because you see their mess, it's just so easy to take your own kind of discomfort and put it onto them. It's so easy to do it because we automatically have a power over our children if we choose to step into it.
Yeah.
And within Yes Parenting, I'm often talking about how do we have power with our children? What does that look like to have power with them, not power over them?
I love that. Okay, so I know we're a little over our time, but I just want to ask you to please share with my community, how they can either contact you if they're interested in working with you, or I believe you have a course coming up, don't you?
Yeah, well, it actually starts on Monday, this coming Monday, the 17th.
Okay.
So I don't know if that is too quick for the turnaround.
Might be.
It is actually my first ever group coaching program that I'm running, and I will be running it again. So I'll just talk about it really briefly because people may want to know about the future. It's called Parenting Without Punishment. It's a 6-week group coaching program, and each week we're covering a different topic to help mamas to connect on their own personal relationship with themselves and with their children that's leading to that desire to punish, and then looking at the practicalities of parenting without punishment. So it's a weekly live call, there's an exclusive Facebook group, and things like that. But in terms of connecting with me and potentially working with me, beamarshall.com is my website. People could sign up to my newsletter there. They can book a 30-minute free session with me. And I also have a Facebook group called Discovering Yes, which for anyone who wants to kind of start to get their heads around the idea of yes parenting a bit more is a brilliant place to start. So, and I love people, if people want to connect with me as a friend on Facebook, I'm friends with everyone these days. I used to be someone who would keep my friends list below 100. When I started using Facebook for my business and for my work, that just went out the window. And I don't actually know how many friends I have, but I'm more than happy to be friends with people so that they can access my stuff that I'm sharing.
Do you have any sort of quick and easy resource, whether it be a video or a PDF or something that I can post in my group so people have something to access? I probably should have asked you before.
Yeah, well, no, that's fine. I have a YouTube channel, so I can go to my YouTube channel, and I have a couple of videos that are kind of like 2 top tips for yes parenting, and that kind of thing. So I can share a couple of those with you. And in terms of a PDF, I have a PDF. It's available on my website, but I'll share it with you so that you can put it straight in the group. And it's called A Checklist for Change. And it's, I haven't looked at it for ages actually, but I think it's 3 steps that take you through a kind of process if you are wanting to bring about change in your parenting and your relationship with your kids. Because, so many parents are often operating at a low level of fear and control with their children. That's just what conventional parenting tells us to do.
Yeah.
And to move from that into this place of connection, peace, joy can actually be quite tricky. But my checklist for change takes you through some key things that can really help you start to shift the way that you think about things, the way you see things, and how to go about making those changes. So I'll get those things to you and you can share them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us. I really enjoyed this conversation. I could probably talk to you all day and just ask you questions all day about parenting and be like, and I have this situation and what should I do here? Or I would just like to have you like in my headset, like all day on like quick dial and just speed dial, just be like, B, I'm having a moment. Can you please help me? So thank you. Thank you for taking this time. Thank you for giving us some amazing tips and strategies to handle those days. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to come on. And, you know, if people enjoy this interview and they want to hear more, then let's schedule another one.
I think we will. All right. So we'll see you next time. Thank you.